Hello and good morning to everyone attending the 2020 virtual Beverley Fringe Uncut. Got a big range of entertainment for you today. Just going to give you a little bit of a preamble about the festival. My name's Rob and I've got my co-presenter Brian here with me. We're going to talk you through this morning's footage and activities. We've got a number of things, starting with some Morris dancing from a variety of different troupes. Brian will tell you more about those in a little while. But I just wanted to mention something a little bit about the folk festival. It's been going for a long time. 1983 it started. It's been to a number of different venues, hosted in various pubs across Beverley. It's done a little trip to the leisure centre, and then more recently it was hosted in the racecourse up on the Herne in Beverley Westwood. Things didn't go so well with that, and it ended up in a situation where the current group of custodians, I think is probably the best phrase to describe it, have picked it up in 2018. And we've had a couple of years starting again from scratch with a smaller scale event in some of the pubs around Beverley, Tiger Inn, Sun Inn and Monk's Walk, to name a few. And we're slowly building the festival back up again. Of course, this year is different. We've had a number of challenges thrown at us. We are all volunteers anyway, so running the festival is always a challenge financially. And I'd like to start actually as well by saying a big thank you to all of the entertainers and performers who are going to be with us until about midnight tonight. They all give their time for nothing. Now, whilst we can't pay them because we don't have any money, we would encourage you to have a look at the footer on the page here, which gives some details about how you might want to contribute financially to the festival. We don't get any of this money, by the way. This all will be split between the performers themselves. Our contribution is our time and a few long evenings and weekends. But we try as a policy to try and make a contribution to the people who perform, because especially in these times it's quite tough for them. There's not a lot of venues open for performance, and the new normal pretty much is broadcasting to social media. While we're on that subject, we will be broadcasting to both YouTube and Facebook. So if you don't have one, you should be able to access the other. This is our first time using this software for this kind of broadcast, so bear with us. So far, so good, but it's early days. We've got a lot of turnover of different feeds and sources, so there may be a little delay on transition between performances, but we are hopeful that this will be a relatively seamless process. Just as a comment as well, on the FB page there will be a live broadcast, as I said. But if you are one of the first 20 to comment this morning, you will find that you may have a possibility of winning a T-shirt. We've got a number of Beverley Fringe T-shirts and some badges and some bits and bobs. So if you want to make a comment in that page, if you're in the Beverley area, it's restricted geographically because we have to go physically send it to you. We can do that. And just one last mention again for the tips jar, we're calling it. It is a PayPal thing, and it gets distributed amongst the performers. It's paypal.me/Beverley Fringe, all one word. It's again reflected in the banner at the bottom of the page, which will give you some more indications. There is on the Facebook page, there is a published schedule for today. We will be giving kind of a little bit of foreknowledge in terms of what's coming up next as we go through the day. But if you want to plan your afternoon and evening, maybe take the iPad out into the garden and enjoy some of this glorious sunshine. Please feel free to go to the Facebook page where you'll find an up-to-date schedule. That gives all of the listings as we transition from the Morris dancing this morning through some workshops at midday, and then we've got some live performances back to back through till the late hours. So go and have a look at that and see if there's anything that catches your interest. Now it's coming up to 9:30, so I'm going to hand over to Brian, who will give you a little bit more information about our first performance.
Thank you, Rob. Morris dancing has always been a very important part of the festival and indeed the Fringe itself. And it's been organised by the local team, which is Beverley Garland Dancers, along with Green Ginger Garland and Rackerback Morris, both from Hull. We thought of trying ways to have some sort of a parade, which is usually the most important part of the day for Morris dancing, but there was no way we could do it socially distancing. So we've put together a couple of videos, and we're starting off with the video of Beverley Garland dancers, some of their past performances, and we'll go on from there with Rackerback. So, do we have the video?
show the last time we did it. Boom! 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 Boom!
Which way are you going, Carol?
Just don't drink them.
Just drink them.
Just don't drink them. Have a share, yeah.
Well, that gives you a bit of a taste of a couple of our local Morris teams. Beverley Garland's the first one. They dance a style called Northwest Clog, which was developed from the mill girls up in the Northwest. The outfits they wear are based on the smocks and pinafores the girls would have worn in the mills. Rackerback, the second group, what's known as Border Morris, and they come from along the Welsh borders, or the dancing did originally. This style of blacking up and everything comes from, they were farm workers originally, and at the end of the season they were put out of work, so they used to disguise themselves to go out begging. A lot of Morris dancing is based around begging traditions. In fact, there is a local tradition from around the Driffield area where they used to put bags over their heads and go out dancing and begging for money. We have a couple of other sides around. Macara Morris from Bridlington, they're also Border Morris. And we have the Raving Maze from Hessel. I'm not really sure how you describe them. They're sort of border, but they do their own thing.
They're quite
I know
striking.
all yeah, very striking. I know all Morris sides around here are looking to recruit, and you can find their websites. Just Google the names, and you'll find out how you can join them if you wish to. It's also a good way in for musicians. They're always happy to take on learner musicians and encourage them to come out with them. There are several different styles of Morris dancing. People just assume Morris dancing is where they dance around waving handkerchiefs. This is what's called Cotswold Morris, and that comes around, of course, from the Cotswold area. We also have Molly dancing, which involves cross-dressing quite a lot. This comes from the Fenlands, but again, it's all farm workers. I don't think I've got much more to say on that. So, Rob, did you want to introduce our next act?
Okay, yes, so we'll do. Just a couple of comments on that. I must admit, I was a bit out of breath myself watching that. There's a lot of hard work goes into those sets, isn't there? Especially when you're doing them back to back. Apologies for some of the sound on that, by the way. The outdoor recording, especially down when you're on the edge of the Humber and it's very windy, a lot of these things are done obviously by phone, and they're not professional microphones. So that will explain why some of the noise effects in there, but it just added atmosphere. So just to go over, if people are interested, actually, I'm sure we can post some of the links for the troupes that have performed for us today on the Facebook page to help direct people if they're interested in either performing or doing some kind of musical contribution, or even just seeing where they're going to be next, so that they can actually go and see them live when things get a little bit freer in terms of lockdown. I'm sure there will be an opportunity before the end of the year to go and see these guys live.
Can I just jump in, Rob? We're hoping to bring a clip of Green Ginger garland dancers later in the programme. I'm not sure when that'll be.
Okay. Good. Okay, so just to go over some of the setup for today, for people who didn't join us from the start. This is the first virtual Beverley Fringe Festival. We are manfully struggling with some new software and technology, so please bear with us. We are learning as we go here. It's a case of sometimes there may be a little bit of delay transiting between performers, but we will get there. We are broadcasting to both YouTube and Facebook, depending on which is your preferred format. And just to reiterate, everybody who is involved in organising the Fringe Festival is a volunteer. There's a number of us, and we will go through some introductions as we go through the day. I'm Rob, and my co-presenter here is Brian. We are doing this to try and maintain the tradition of having a folk festival within Beverley. It's been going on since 1983. It's been through a lot of transitions itself in a period of time. And lots of changes of venue, and this is yet another one. March, April time this year, we were not sure at all that we would be able to get anything together, but the team have been pulled together and come up with some ideas, and this is our approach to delivering and maintaining that tradition. It's a non-traditional tradition in terms of it being virtual, but hopefully you're going to be able to enjoy a wide and varied number of performances throughout the day. We're just lining up our next performer, which will be Laura Dowse. She's just having some technical issues getting her microphone to work, so whilst that's getting sorted out, we'll keep talking. As I say, we're all volunteers here. However, the performers who you will see during the day here are also giving their time for nothing. But one of our principles as an organisation is that we will try and ensure that people get some kind of remuneration for the time that they've put into this. Live performers, particularly at the moment, are struggling. There are no venues open. There's no opportunity to generate income. So we're asking people if you wouldn't mind just having a look at the bottom of the screen there. I can't work out which way my finger's going. There we go. That's got a little bit of information in there, but we have a PayPal account that's for tips. PayPal.me/Beverley Fringe, all one word. All of that money goes to the performers. None of it comes to us. So just if you feel that you've had value for money and would like to make a contribution, that money will get split up between the performers somehow over the course of the weekend. For those that are not aware, the first 20 comments on Facebook today, I'm not quite sure. I don't have oversight on it at the moment. Maybe one of my colleagues could let me know. But the first 20 comments on Facebook get to win a T-shirt and a badge. Just a little memento of the festival. The badge is actually designed for the what we're calling the Uncut Festival, Fringe Uncut, which I think will be familiar to many people at the moment, not being able to go to hairdressers. So if you would like a free T-shirt, we've got a limited number of sizes that we do have a range, so there's probably something that will fit you. But the first 20 comments will get a T-shirt. We'll be running some other bits and pieces during the course of the day, just to give people an opportunity to get some freebies. Brian, you were talking about the troops for the Morris dancers. What are the ones apart from Beverley Garland? What are the ones that are based particularly in Beverley? Are there a range, or which ones are the more local ones?
Obviously, Beverley Garland are based in Beverley, and the nearest ones are Bridlington, which are Macara Morris. Then you have Rackerback and Green Ginger. They're both based in Hull. Of course, there's Raving Maze at Hessel, but there are other groups around. There's another border side, the Ravens. They're on the way to York. There are several actually dance troupes in York, but they tend to do Cotswold and Morris. I've actually just had a live message in. Rackerback are celebrating their 10th anniversary next year. All being well, a big year is planned, so there'll be lots of dance outs. Hopefully we'll be able to get out and see them this time.
Okay. I've just been prompted as well to remind people for the T-shirt competition, it's only for people in the immediate area, I'm afraid. We don't have the funding or the capacity to be able to send things over to Australia, unfortunately, but we do have people joining us from further afield. We have some kind of blow-ins from different regions, but unfortunately the competition is only for people within the immediate area, because that means me getting on my bike and pedaling around and delivering them.
But they're a very nice T-shirt.
Yes, we're hoping to actually have a yearly design. So every year we will commission someone to have a go at designing, just to give something distinctive. As I say, we're very limited financially, so we have to be careful about what limited funding that we do have. So we can't go off and get 1,000 T-shirts printed if we're not sure that we're going to be able to either provide them as competition material or sell them as part of an income generating. But it's something that we are hoping to develop over a period of time. Just for those who weren't aware, the current custodians of the Beverley Fringe, as it's called now, picked this up in 2018 when there was an issue with the formal folk festival at the racecourse to do with funding. We picked it up and we did a very much smaller scale events in the pubs around Beverley, and we're gradually building it back up. And now I'm being told by the director we have our next performer ready, and you don't want to be listening to me, you want to be listening to Laura. So without much ado, I'll hand over to Laura Dowse.
Oh, hello. Okay. I think we are ready. Right. Hello everybody. Hi, my name is Music Laura and I'm here today to do a very special music session, and hopefully I'm going to sing some songs that you know and that you can sing along to. So let's go. Okay, here we go. We're going to sing a song from a film, one of my favourite films, called The Greatest Showman. This is called This Is Me. So please, if you know the words to this song, please sing along. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. For we are glorious. When the sharpest words gonna cut me down, I'm gonna set a flood, I'm gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I wanna be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, oh, another round of bullets hit my skin. Well, far away, kiss the day. Don't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors. Yeah, that's what we'll become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. For we are glorious. When the sharpest words gonna cut me down, I'm gonna set a flood, I'm gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, 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 this is me. Yay! Oh, I hope you guys are singing along, and I hope you can hear me all okay. Okay, so we're going to do another song, but I'm going to ask you guys to get ready, because for our last song today, we're going to be using these. So don't worry, if you haven't got one of these, that's fine. You can use a pillowcase or a tea towel or a tissue or just anything that you can wave around like that. So just have something ready for our last song. And I'm going to play you a song that I sing when I go and singing some schools. So this is called We're Going to the Zoo, okay? We're all going to the zoo tomorrow, the zoo tomorrow, the zoo tomorrow. We're all going to the zoo tomorrow, and we can't stay all day. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you, you, you? You can come too. scratching, swinging by the long tail, scratch, scratch, scratching, and we can stay all day. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you, you, you? You can come too, too, too. We're going to the zoo. See all the seals there, honk, honk, honking, catching all the fish and honk, honk, honking. Little tiny seals all honk, honk, honking, and we can stay all day. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you, you, you? You can come too, too, too. We're going to the zoo. Stayed all day and now we're sleepy. Woo! Driving home in the car 'cause we're all sleepy. Woo! Gonna go home to bed because we're all sleepy. Because we stayed all day. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you, you, you? You can come too, too, too. We're going to the zoo. We're going to the zoo, zoo, zoo. How about you, you, you? You can come too, too, too. We're going to the zoo. Yay! Brilliant. I hope you enjoyed that one. Let's move on. Let's do another song. Now, this is a favourite song that I do. This is very popular with a lot of the children I work with. Everybody loves this song. This song is called Shotgun by George Ezra. So if you can sing along with me and even have a little bit of a boogie, then that would be awesome. Homegrown alligator, see you later. Gotta hit the road, gotta hit the road. The sun that changes the atmosphere, architecture unfamiliar. I can get used to this. Time flies by in the yellow and green. Stick around and you'll see what I mean. There's a mountain top that I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like it's someone. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like it's someone. The south of me away, the navigator. Gotta hit the road, gotta hit the road. Deep sea diving around the clock, eating bottoms, lollipops. I can get used to this. Time flies by in the yellow and green. Stick around and you'll see what I mean. There's a mountain top that I'm dreaming of. If you need me, you know where I'll be. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like it's someone. I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like it's someone, someone, someone. Yay! What a fun song! Oh, I hope you was all having a really good boogie to that one. A good Saturday morning boogie. That's just what we all need, isn't it? Okay, so for this next song, I'm just going to play a couple more and then we're going to go on to the next performer, I think. So we're going to play a song from one of my favourite favourite Disney films. And this is from a film that you all might know called Frozen. This is called Let It Go. The snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, never knows I tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Feel, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Run away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the season wants control me, can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test my limits and break. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I'm alone with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, and here I stay. Let the storm rage on. Cold never bothered me anyway. Yay! There you go. That was from Frozen. Do we have any Frozen fans out there? I'm a big Disney fan, and I think that I can squeeze a little extra song in. Actually, now this is another song from another Disney film. Now, we have got, I'm going to do a song now from a film called The Jungle Book. And then we're going to move on to our very last song with the scarf. So make sure you've got your scarves ready. If you don't have a scarf, just get anything that you can wave around. Now, this is a song called King of the Swingers. Ready? Now I'm the king of the swingers, yeah, the jungle we are free. I reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me. You see, I wanna be a man that covers, go right into town, and be just like the other men. Now I'm tired of monkeying around. Oh, me too. I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You see, it's true, and ain't like me. Could love me like someone like you. Now don't try to kid me, man, 'cause I made it to you. What I desire is man's red fire to make my dreams come true. Now give me the secret, man, 'cause one who me what to do. Give me the power of man's red flower so I can be like you. Oh, me too. I wanna be like you. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too. You see, it's true, and ain't like me. To love me like someone like you. Hooray! That was from The Jungle Book. So thank you so much for watching me today. And thank you to Phil and the rest, and Jess and the rest of the amazing team working really, really hard to put on this amazing online festival. It's really, really fabulous. So everybody get your scarves ready. This is our last song. This is called the Dancing Scarf Blues. Ready? Well, you move your scarf to the side. You move your scarf to the other side. You keep your scarves moving with them everywhere. Yeah, I got the dancing scarf blues. You just keep your scarf moving, wave them everywhere. You move your scarf to the front. You move your scarf to the back. You keep your scarf moving, waving everywhere. Yeah, I got the dancing scarf blues. You just keep your scarf moving, wave them everywhere. You move your scarf way up high. You wave your scarf way down low. You keep your scarf moving, waving everywhere. Yeah, I got the dancing scarf blues. You just keep your scarf moving, wave them everywhere. You wave your scarves goodbye, goodbye. You wave your scarves cheerio. You keep your scarves moving, wave them everywhere. Yeah, I got the dancing scarf blues. You just keep your scarf moving, wave that scarf goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, I thought that was brilliant. Really enjoyed that.
Fantastic. I had a little bit of a sing along myself. That I'm a bit of a secret Frozen fan, if I'm honest.
Oh dear. I worry about you, Rob.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right.
thank you, Laura. Just some comments relating to that. Laura does a lot of work working with young people, including some very young children, introducing them to music and song. It's all about building confidence and skills, and also having a lot of fun, as you can see. She's a very good professional in terms of trying to engage with young people. So if you'd like to find out more, she has a Facebook page, and we will be posting the links to the artists that performed today. So if you want to go and find out more about what they get up to, there will be a pointer there. So thanks again, Laura. Now, we're going to be starting to get a bit more adventurous now. We haven't broken things yet so far, so we're going to have a good go at it now. What's going to happen over the next certainly for the next hour or so, is we're going to split into two different streams. There will be a continued stream here with us, and a series of videos introducing some of the other people involved in the festival and some other activities. But there will also be a ukulele workshop. This is going to be using another new social media piece of software called Zoom. It's open access. The link will be posted on our Facebook page. Anyone who would like to participate is welcome. You can come along and just watch as part of the audience, or you can grab a ukulele if you've got one and participate in the performance there. It's a private session. You're not broadcasting to the world. It's just the people who are participating. So if you are feeling a little bit self-conscious, don't worry about it. We're not going to record you or make everyone watch you. It's going to be a case of just learning a few chords and then playing along as a group. So feel free to go along to that. Hopefully there's a link now posted onto the Facebook page, Beverley Fringe. The link, again, I'm trying to work out where my finger goes. Let's see, it's on here. The link is on the green bar at the bottom of the page. Hopefully you can see it. We've got our social media in there. Again, the whole principle of this is a completely new format for the festival, forced upon us by the current situation with coronavirus and having to isolate and be sensible about how we interact with each other whilst there is still a problem with the virus. We are come March and April this year, we were very despondent and quite not sure at all whether we would be able to put any kind of activity together. And we put our heads together and we had some long chats to see what we could come up with. And the decision was made that we wanted to try and maintain the tradition of the festival. It's been going for many, many years, and we didn't want to be the ones that kind of dropped the ball. So whilst it looks and feels very different, we're still trying to encourage a bit of a festival feel. There's a lot of variety during the course of the day. We're going to be going until kind of 11 or 12 tonight. Lots of different activities. So I'm just going to reference my running schedule. So we've got a number of interviews coming up with some of the publicans who've been involved historically over the last few years, in terms of their perception of the folk festival and what they feel it brings to Beverley and themselves and the people of Beverley. And then we'll go through to starting a little bit of a start of the performances before lunchtime. Then things take a different direction, and we'll be looking to do some open sessions. So, Brian, did you have any comments?
Yes, I'd really like to thank the local publicans, especially around the old town. They've supported us up to the hilt. The Sun especially is very, very popular with Morris dancers, because not only do they have very good beer, but they lay on sandwiches, especially for the Morris dancers. So, of course, it's hard getting them out of there again. Organising Morris dancers, they often say it is like herding kittens. But if you just tell them where the pubs are and where their next meal's coming from, it usually works out okay. I'm looking quite forward to speaking to some of the publicans to get their view on it.
Yeah, so we've got a mixture here. The nature of the beast is that whilst we're endeavouring to get as much live performance going here, logistics and availability and technical restrictions mean that some of the content that we are going to be broadcasting today is pre-recorded. It does have its benefits. It gives us a little bit of a chance to relax between introducing different live sessions, but we are endeavouring to provide as much live content as possible. Yes, I think if the director's ready, perhaps we could start moving into the next sequence.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Fringe Uncut. Hope you're all enjoying it. My name's Timmy. I'm going to give you a brief history of the Monk's Walk. Now, to start with, it's important that we credit St. John of Beverley, also known as the founder of Beverley or the miracle healer. St. John of Beverley, believed by King Athelstan, who was the king during the unifying Battle of Britain, that is, the battle that brought England, Wales and Scotland together as one nation. He believed that St. John of Beverley had brought him victory within that, and therefore he decreed that 10% of all grain and corn grown in the UK would be sent to Beverley as a thank you. Now, this, of course, was more money than had ever been brought into the town before, and it is basically the reason that Beverley exists. So, what happened? A town was formed, a church needed to be built, but there was all of this grain coming into a town that effectively had no infrastructure, and it needed to go somewhere. So, they built a large amount of grain, effectively silos, grain warehouses, and that is where the birth of the Monk's Walk began. Now, stood out in the beer garden, as you can tell, if you'd like to give a quick once around of everything here. And we are very blessed with this area. This is where we've had an awful lot. It was effectively the hub of the Beverley Fringe Folk Festival for us every year that we've had it running. This great table in the centre here has provided a nice hub around which people have gathered, had many a tale of misfortune and woe, and many a pint of real ale, and I'm sure many a following hangover has been had. But so this area should, RIP, be bustling with life right now, but unfortunately, as you can see, it is only the songs of the birds that is being played right now. If you'd like to come on through and follow me, I can give you a bit more of a tour of the building. Have we had Morris dancers here before?
No.
No.
No. We usually have the marquee up here. This is where we usually have our marquee. And during the the folk festival Fringe, we have many acts, including the Westwood sessions going on the Saturday and Sunday afternoons of the Fringe weekend. Sadly, that's what it's going to look like this year, thanks to lockdown. But we'll be all ready for next year. And you'll see plenty of music online this time. Hope to make up for it.
The formation of Beverley was a rather rapid one as a result of all of the corn and grain coming in here. There was money coming in, therefore there were traders coming in. Now, how land used to be divided up is that it was sold into what's known as charters, 16-foot long strips of land, many of which still remain in, well, you can see them if you look into the various shops in Saturday markets in Beverley town centre today. However, richer traders would, although they would like having the land, they would want a more private garden and house at the back, which is what you can see has happened here. Long strips, but bought so they could have a long private passageway down the side with a side entrance. Monk's Walk is an example of these longer passageways with private houses. The Green Dragon and the Windmill are also examples of that same charter layout. So this entrance here was the doorway to Sir Michael Wharton's home, credited as being the wealthiest commoner in England and also credited as saving the Minster. Because after all of the grain had come in, Henry VIII came along and decided that he didn't like Sir John of Beverley being a big saint. Henry VIII preferred the sort of regular people that had done extraordinary things rather than supernatural healers, and therefore came in and made Beverley a very poor area, took all of the money and all of the endowments that were coming towards the Minster and took them into churches that had better suited saints for his liking. So Beverley went into disrepair, went into ruin. No money coming in, you had the great big church which was built on a bog, and it was gradually sinking. So we needed some big money, we needed some big bucks, and that is where Sir Michael Wharton came into his own. So Sir Michael Wharton built, as a show of wealth, today you would use things like yachts and supercars, but back in the day it was big townhouses, and what could be trendier than living in the shadow of the biggest parish church in England. And so this was the main entrance to his home. If you'd like to get a shot of that.
Okay.
If you'd like to follow me through. And so although the building itself is knocked around and comes from very different parts of it date back to 930 AD, However, there are only records of this being a licensed pub from as late as the 16th, 17th century. So, although it's the oldest building in Beverley that is a pub, it is unfortunately not the oldest pub in Beverley. That belongs to the Sun Inn. Don't tell Nellies about that one. And here we are, the end of our tour now, in our upstairs room. We have this wall here, which is certainly dating back to the 13th century. This is believed to be the oldest surviving example of this sort of workmanship, more or less of its time, give or take a few, around here. And it's right on your doorstep. Aren't you lucky about that? This room now is used for a lot of live music. We're pleased to say about that. So it's still being kept alive as we believe it would have been back in those earlier times. And Jill, maybe you could tell us a bit about. I'm just flagging you. And Jill, maybe you can tell us a bit about how this room would be used if the Fringe were happening today.
Right. If the Fringe were happening, I think this room would be, and we didn't have our lockdown, we didn't have coronavirus. This room would be filled with people. We have a maximum number of 45 in total up here when we have our music events on. Now, the Fringe has not played up here so far, and the plan was that we would have music throughout the weekend in this space, this very special space. The pub does an upstairs at Monk's event, which is not part of the Fringe, regularly on a monthly basis up here. But it's nice to have all sorts of musicians come in, and it's sad that we haven't got them this year, but just keep watching this space and get it in your diaries for next year. Right, so here we are, the Monk's Walk. This is what we call our great room. We call it the Great Room, Grate, because it has the fire in it in winter. This room is often full of people. And on the weekend of the Fringe Festival, it's very often full of people singing and playing, and of course drinking beer. And it's a great atmosphere with people from all over the place joining in, jamming together, singing all sorts of folk music, from traditional shanties and ballads to some more modern stuff, but lots of people joining in. And the thing that's amazing about the Fringe, when we first came, it was, folk festival, and somebody came and said, well, it's going to be on this weekend and we often sing and play in here. Okay, we thought. And then we were just overwhelmed with a number of people who came in really relaxed, really enjoying themselves, and just all getting together to sing and play. Real classic folk festival type stuff, and not just in this room, but if we carry on through the rest of the bar, we'll see the different places also where people sing and play. We're out of action now because of coronavirus, which hopefully will be scent packing before too much longer. But this is the famous corner where many of our musicians, particularly Phil Simpson, Phil and Jess originally played here. They've played at Monk's Walk since we first came in 2016. Every Wednesday night. If they haven't been able to come, they've arranged a stand-in for us. But we also have music at this end regularly on a Friday. And it's great to have live music in a pub. So we're really looking forward to being able to get that going in the very near future. Come down this way a little bit further. Here we are at the front of our pub. Do that way again. Here we are at the front of our bar. And also, you know, at different times during the folk weekend, we have people sat around in this area singing, playing instruments, drinking beer, telling stories, and just an atmosphere that I'm really struggling to describe, and we're so going to miss it this year. But hey, do keep watching. We've got some live acts streaming, just to give everybody a taste of the Fringe. The Fringe, sadly, uncut until their barbers open again.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to the Sun Inn here in Beverley. My name is Richard Price, and I'm fortunate to be the licensee here at the Sun Inn. And I've been asked, as part of the Fringe virtual weekend, if you like, to put together an insight into the Fringe Festival from a licensee's, or from my point of view. So what I thought I'd do is give a little brief introduction as to how I came to be here, how the Fringe was set up here at the Sun Inn, and try and be a bit of a time scale and a bit of a history to the Fringe, if you like, as we once knew it and as we know it now. So for me, it started in 2007 when I was forced to change dwellings, and was fortunate to gain a flat on Minster Yard South, which you'll probably see in a bit, is just over the road there from this fabulous pub. Some great attractions about living down at this end of town, and particularly the flat that I moved into. For anybody who knows Beverley well, the big selling point, or one of the big selling points, was parking. I had my own parking space, which, as you all know, is a luxury for anybody here in Beverley. Great access to town and its facilities, and of course the view and living near the historical Beverley Minster. The fourth, and probably the most important selling point for me, was that I moved opposite the Sun Inn, and it quickly became my regular. I did used to frequent pubs in town when I lived up in the Molecroft area, but this soon became my regular, and I was welcomed with open arms, not only by the staff but by the customers. Having a history of loving music myself, going back way back in the 70s, when glam music was my particular interest. But as the years moved on, quite a few genres came through. I embraced them all with a fantastic love of music. The one thing that avoided me was something I found here. When I used to come in on a weekend, I got to know the guys who ran the folk sessions in the afternoon on a Saturday and a Sunday. And this was something quite new to me, and I fell in love with it straight away, and it was a big selling point when I came to take over the pub in 2011. Again, a bit of fate there. 2011 was a big year for me. Left my job I was doing quite well with. I had the chance to take over here at the Sun Inn, and grabbed it with open arms. My first major training session, if you like, although I had worked in pubs before, was a full weekend at the 2011 Folk Festival weekend. So I spent the whole time behind the bar, getting to know the beers, the cleaning processes and such forth. And the rest, as I say, is history. So from a Fringe point of view, very, very important to the pubs and the restaurants and cafes in Beverley, and something which we hope will continue for years to come. We are in strange times at the moment. We started the Beverley Fringe once it had finished, once we got notice that the festival itself had finished at the racecourse in 2018. A few of us got together and set up the Fringe Festival very quickly, in a matter of months, and we had a very good first year in 2018. 2019 we had a lot more time to organise, and it was very successful, and we won an award for it as well. So as I say, as part of this, I would like to sort of give a history of the Fringe and the festival, and in order to help me with that, I've managed to bring along one of my closest friends, and a guy who was a great influence from the start. I mentioned I came in here on a Saturday, and you could see various instruments around the pub. There was fiddles, banjos, guitars. We have a piano which is still here, But the one standout feature very occasionally was a massive harp that used to take centre stage in the main window here. And the guy that was responsible for that and has been running these sessions for a dot, John, I think. So I'd like to welcome you, and we all know him as John the Harp. So John, we can go back, I think, as far as, or I can, looking at some of the notes I've read up, as 2002, which you might remember, you might not. Looking back at the history, our very good friend John Yeaman was running the Fringe.
That's right.
Started the Fringe then, on the back of a festival that was cancelled due to lack of funding. Can you sort of think back to as far as that?
Yeah, I can remember bits and pieces, but it was all cancelled because of lack of funds, really, and that was its demise. You know, they tried to get it to run on the race course, but it just didn't work. So now we are literally down to the Beverley Fringe Festival. And that's what we've got. Sadly, we can't do it this year.
Yeah.
But we're still running in a big way.
But in those days, it was based purely at the leisure centre, wasn't it?
Back to the leisure centre. Yeah.
And the reasons for it going from there. I mean, in its day, it had some great acts. We can look back at people like Joe Brown, Chumbawamba, Steel Eye Span, and I suppose the income for the town was good as well. We were talking thousands. But we moved on from there. And going up to about 2012, when you famously wrote a little article in the Hull Daily Mail, which you have there, which we've kept.
After all this time.
And a name given to the festival then, or the Fringe, as it was the Beverley Festival Folk and Acoustic Roots.
That's what they called it,
So, names have changed since then. I don't think it's a name that you quite remember. But,
no, it isn't. But
when it all started, going back, if we can go back just a little bit from where we go, it was the People's Voice.
That's the one.
That's the one you remember.
The first one is the People's Voice Folk Festival. That's what That's what Beverley Folk Festival turned into when they cancelled it all. They've had a few runs, but the People's Voice is the one that is still running. Obviously, sadly, we can't do it this year, but hopefully things will be back to normal next year.
Because my abiding memory is of all the organisation, particularly here at the Sun Inn, I'm sure for most pubs it was a highlight of the year to have the Fringe Festival, and trying to get your head around beer orders and how many people you would be expecting in. And then sadly, well, saying sadly, but unfortunately, it's probably a better word, 2013. It was decided to take the festival itself up to the racecourse, something you remember, and as you can probably recall, it had a big hit.
Yeah, very
on
much
the town
so.
and the pubs.
Yeah, I mean, I can go back to what I used to do as a young lad back then, 30 odd years ago. To what we used to do to about Beverley, and stuff like that, and it was just a free-for-all back then. We used to camp up, used to work all year up to this point, because my Beverley Folk Festival started on the New Year. So you used to save up at New Year, and then come to this festival, and then basically put the tent up in the leisure centre, and that was it, guitar on shoulder, and we just go round and round and round all of Beverley, in all of the pubs, and you used to just get back around about Sunday evening.
A bit worse for wear.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah. But it was fabulous. Every pub was chock-a-block with musicians.
And that's how
singers.
I remember it being.
Fabulous act, absolutely fabulous acts.
But the weather had a big part to play as well, didn't it? And
the weather was the one that I, in my opinion, stopped it. Actually, that was the one. That was the last straw, if you pardon the pun, because one year it got that sodden, the field where we all used to camp. It got that sodden that the cars where you drive on and off, there's a bit of a slope there, and it's all grass, and all the wheels was churning up all the mud. So somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody came up with a great idea, and they put this bale of straw down, and it just worked a treat, because it was like a big thick mat that the cars could drive over, and that worked an absolute treat. It just dried it all up, and it was great. But the following year we had the same problem, so I mentioned it, and but I think they'd already made their mind up by then that that was enough. But it did cure it though, that particular year.
That did have a big hit on the pubs, certainly in the first couple of years.
Massive. All the pubs was
2013, 2014. We certainly noticed it here, and I'm sure many other pubs did. And of course, going back again, the lack of venues had a big part.
Venues.
There was the Nelly's
was the first
White
one.
Horse, as people probably know it.
White Horse, yeah, that was the first one to stop music altogether. So that was the first hit that we had. The second hit that we had was the Corn Exchange. The Corn Exchange, that was a big venue for big acts and stuff like that. That was great.
Because I'm not Beverlonian. I've been here nearly 40 years, but when you said Corn Exchange, I had to ask you where the Corn Exchange was, for people that don't know. And I'm probably in the minority here.
It's in the Market Square.
It's now Brown's, and
Brown's.
It was the Picture Playhouse.
That's right. Yeah. So that was a big venue for us.
And St Mary's itself.
St Mary's and all that area. So it was bustling. There was all the dancers, all the Morris people, and all through the town. It was massive for years and years and years and years. But it just got a bit too big, I think. It just got a bit too big. There was there was getting big acts in, big name acts back then, costing an absolute fortune. And it used to take a year from the end of the festival to the beginning of the next festival to organise. That's how big it got, And I knew them organisers, going back to right at the beginning of it. I think it was where if I remember rightly, you might have to correct me on this, do some research, but I think it was where the Guy Fawkes plotted the Houses of Parliament, Guy Fawkes night. That's where they plotted the Beverley Folk Festival.
Right.
So and that was I've got wrote down here. I wrote his name, Richard Waslin. There was Les Ward and a few of the older ones, and it was all people like that organised it, all back in the day. But it just got very, 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 very expensive when it got really, really big.
And as was proven in 2018 when they had to cancel the race course. And as I alluded to earlier, we were given very short notice on the cancellation, and we had to sort of get our heads together, which a few of us did. We formed a committee, which is still going, and we brought it back to the roots in 2018. And a slow start, but I think we got it back to the Fringe as we know it. And last year, as I said, we had more time to plan. We had some promotional gear, t-shirts, etc. And some great artists coming into the town, and the pubs, I think, saw a great increase. And the town itself, was buzzing. And you listen to and read reports from random people just saying this is how it should be. Seeing the Morris dancers in town, the sword dancers, the various stalls and workshops that were going on. It was like it had just literally done full circle and come back. And there's a lot of people to thank for that. Too many names to mention. You'll see them all today, or have seen them today, on this Fringe Festival in these uncertain times. But it's a big thank you to everybody who's organised it. And hopefully next year, fingers crossed, we'll be back to some sort of normality.
Well, I hope so.
And we don't have to sit
2 meters apart.
2 meters
apart.
And we can get it back to how it was. So a little bit of an insight there into a bit of the past, and hopefully we can look to the future with great optimism, I think, based on things that have happened this year. And an alert to the committee, but a big shout out to Phil Simpson, who's helped mostly put this all together, but there's a lot of other guys behind the scenes: Rob, Brian, Alex, Jill at the Monk's Walk. I hope I've done my little bit, but I will continue supporting every way I can. And thank you all for taking part and taking the time to look in and hopefully view most of the day. Not all of it, I appreciate it, but whatever you do see, I hope you enjoy. And you can support us in the pubs and cafes and restaurants in 2021, next year.
2021.
So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Wow. That was a really good interview from Richard. The history is absolutely brilliant. The way he's supported the Fringe from the start up. Again, same with Jill. And again, Alan, who's coming up next, I believe. I was a little bit disappointed with Timmy. I was hoping for a 10-minute solo on the 12-string guitar. But never mind, you can't have everything.
Yeah, we've been trying to get the new tech set up during the course of the week, and Tim was volunteered to do some audio testing and gave us a very nice sound test with his new guitar. So shame we didn't get some on that one. We'll get him in next time.
Good.
Okay, just to spend a couple of minutes going over the kind of setup here. It was really interesting to get some perspective on some of the people who are intrinsically involved with the festival as being venues. The Monk's Walk and the Sun Inn have been very key to the whole of the festival, really over a period of time, but most particularly recently as the festival's come back into the city centre. The town centre rather. So it's quite interesting to see people's perspective on this, and why it's important to the population of Beverley, and also the economy of businesses, and creating that kind of atmosphere of like-minded people coming together. It's quite extraordinary. The Sun Inn on the opening night of what would be a normal festival is fantastic, with the ukulele groups getting together and kicking everything off. For those of you who've missed it, there is a ukulele workshop ongoing as we speak in a Zoom format, so you can access it through a link in the Facebook page. If you go and have a look at Beverley Fringe, one of the events there is the ukulele workshop. If you open that up, there's a link that will allow you access to go in. You can either just pop in and have a listen, or you can grab a uke and contribute as well. Just to go through a few kind of housekeeping things, we're broadcasting both to YouTube and Facebook, so you've got a choice of social media to access the goodies that we have for you. We're going to move into a few other publican interviews in just a second, but I just wanted to remind everyone that the festival is run by volunteers, and we're happy to do so. It's a great part of the social calendar in Beverley, even if we are having to do it virtually. But the performers are also providing their services for free, and one of our aspirations as an organisation is to at least acknowledge their contribution to this process. Without it, it wouldn't happen, basically. So there are some details at the bottom of the screen. I can never work out where my hand should be, so let's go here. The green bar at the bottom of the screen, there's a link. It's paypal.me/Beverley Fringe, or one word. If you feel that you've been adequately entertained, please make a contribution. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It's just an acknowledgement of the contributions that the musicians make and the performers make to this whole venture. Again, I stress, none of it comes to us. It goes straight out. It will be split up between the performers. I'm not sure where we are with the current T-shirt competition, but anyone who makes a comment on the Facebook page, as long as you're within the Beverley and Molescroft area, so within range of us to be able to deliver it to your door, if you are one of the first 20 to make a comment, please do so, and you will earn yourself a T-shirt and possibly a shiny new badge, which is specifically designed for this, what we're calling Beverley Fringe Uncut, with the whole festival being delivered virtually. Okay, so the next section.
Sorry, Rob. I was just going to say it's a limited edition, so it could be very valuable in future years.
It is very limited. I've seen the production line, and it's quite manually intensive. One of our fellow committee members, Alex Russell, has a dedicated shed facility for making the very highly desirable badges. So grab yourself a small piece of Beverley history while you're at it. And actually, if there is an interest, we have the capacity to produce a number of these. So just let us know if you'd like one. Okay, fantastic. So we're just going to move into a couple more interviews. They'll be back to back, I think, from another couple of publicans with venues who've supported Beverley Fringe over the last few years. And I hope you'll find those as interesting as the previous two. So I'll hand over now to our video editor.
Hello everybody, hope you're well. My name's Alan, I'm the owner of the Tiger Inn in Beverley. Just being asked, I wanted to just say a few words about the last couple of years of the festival and what it means to me and my memories of it really. When I moved to the Tiger Inn in 2016, I just missed that year. So in 2017 I'd heard of the festival, however didn't know really what to expect. It was all new to me. So I put my faith in a young gent called Derek Wardby, who had been running open mics and musical showcases at the Tiger, and had been involved in the Fringe Festival for a number of years. He was one of the founding members of the festival, of the folk festival, I do believe. So I sort of left it to him, and it was lovely. It was just first experience. It was just lovely people, lovely atmosphere, and I knew coming away from that there was real potential to build something really special and wanted to become part of it. And then in 2018, Derek had left us. He'd gone travelling. We actually named a stage after him. It's the Derek Wardby stage, just to say thanks to him really because of all he'd ever done. And then obviously in 2018 as well, we were hit with the news that the folk festival, which the Fringe Festival was always run alongside, was to be no more. Very, very sad for the town, but I knew it was a venue that I wanted to make a real statement that we could do something to not replace it, but fill a gap really. So we'd all had a meeting down at the Sun, and very, very quickly a committee was formed, and we really, really wanted to do something that would make Beverley proud. 2018 of the Fringe Festival was just something else. The committee in 10 weeks put together, an award-winning festival. It was just an absolute huge success. The pubs were brilliant. Queen's Head, ourselves at the Tiger, Monk's Walk, and of course Richard at the Sun, who does a brilliant job with live music week in, week out anyway. But the collectiveness of the group, I think, shone through. It is my one it'll be my one residing memory of the festival is the community. As a venue, it's lovely that it happens, but I don't get to see much of it because I'm busy. The excitement for me is the weeks leading up to it, and the first one in 2018 was just brilliant. To see the collective spirit of all the musicians, all the performers, all the Morris dancers, the designers, local businesses who wanted to get involved, food vendors. We had Butt Farm who, very kindly opened their campsite for us. The local designers that helped us do the posters and helped us do the booklet, which was a massive success, part of the success of the first one. Memorial Hall, they got involved, and there's a great gig on there, and it was the groups that performed at the Memorial Hall were very keen that they wanted people who would book tickets at the folk festival up at the racecourse. They'd offer them free tickets to their gigs, which was brilliant. They didn't have to do that, and it was just lovely that we wanted to, that everybody wanted to get involved and wanted to give something that Beverley could be proud of. It was brilliant. I remember on the Saturday afternoon of the first Fringe, I did actually get a couple of minutes to walk out peak afternoon at Tiger, and about 3 o'clock we have live music on outside. There was around 300 people in our car park, 100 of which were Morris dancers, and the dance troops or the dance groups were putting on their shows, 5-10 minutes each, and it was just brilliant. It was a lovely atmosphere. Ourselves at the Tiger, we had Adam Brody on, who does the Speakeasy in Hull and is taking it all over the country. Some brilliant musicians Adam brought across. It's basically a showcase of all local singing, songwriting talent. And also, I was very cautious that they're only our neighbour in Hull, but we got the guys who are involved in the Hull Folk Festival of the Maritime, Lloyd Dobbs, amongst others, because it was very, very important that we worked with our neighbours. It's a very much a community festival. And another thing as well, the landlords work together. I can't think of an event in town that landlords actually work together. There was no, it's fighting for your own business. It was for the greater good. And of course, in 2018, I personally think this was its biggest success. Of why, or one of the reasons it was a success, was the involvement of East Riding Theatre. To get them guys on board just took it to another level. We had the great performance spaces in all the pubs, the car parks, the beer gardens, Memorial Hall, but to get the theatre involved where you could put different kind of shows on, and then to have the late night shows as well after the pubs had finished, was brilliant. The credit to ERT and Phil Simpson, our glorious committee leader. I strongly believe that was the reason for the success. I just think it just took it to a whole nother level. And
I'm not quite sure what happened there. Hello again. Just a bit.
Okay, so thanks, Alan, for that. It was a really interesting perspective, and thanks for the compliments in terms of how the committee worked together. I'd actually like to make a personal comment here. When we heard that the festival had collapsed in 2018 for a number of different reasons, there were some complexities to this and funding, and it got very, very difficult to try and keep all the plates spinning. And it was very disappointing. I'd been involved with the racecourse side of things, helping set up for 3 or 4 years. Kind of doing the task force and trying not to blow myself up with the electrics. But it was a very fond memory of mine, spending summer afternoons up on Herne, getting everything set up, and it was a real shame when it collapsed. But there's a lot of despond around at the time. It's a huge festival to have to try and fill a gap for. But my personal comment goes out to Phil Simpson, who rallied the troops, put a number of posts out on Facebook to say, "Oh, we're going to let this go by the by and lose a piece of tradition, Beverley tradition." We had a huge meeting. I was amazed when we turned up on I think it was a Friday evening at the Sun Inn, and there must have been 60 or 70 people there, all of whom were enthusiastic about helping support and get something else in place. And as Alan mentioned, in a very short period of time, I think it was actually less than 10 weeks, in a very short period of time, we managed to put together something in local venues going back to the festival's roots. We managed to do a variety of different pieces of getting media exposure and doing our marketing. All of this was with people who had never set up on their own a festival before. And it's a credit to the committee, and it's a credit to Phil particularly for being the catalyst for bringing this all together. And I'd like to give my personal thanks and gratitude for his inspiration for doing this. And sometimes there are some difficult meetings that we have, and it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But we're there and we're live and it's happening. And that's no small part down to Phil Simpson. So thank you, Phil. Okay, so we have one more brief commentary from one of the other venues that we've used previously for Fringe. It's slightly away from the main three. It's actually more towards the town centre, and it's the Checkers Micropub. And we've got a small piece of commentary there. And we will then move back into, actually I think we're going to start some performances after that, but we're just trying to get ourselves back on track. Okay, so without further ado, I will hand over to video.
Hold on, Rob. I think we've got a bit of a hold up there. Can we run through the schedule just to bring us?
Oh, okay. Yep, sure.
Time?
Yep. I will take my trusty point of reference. Of course, things never work smoothly in these kind of situations, and I found this morning that my printer wasn't working, so I'm having to busk this a little bit. So we've got a couple of just one more interview from one of the publicans. Ian Allett, who, as I've just mentioned, is part of Checkers Micropub. And then we're going to, at 11:30, we'll have a section of some performance spoken word from Gordon Meredith, who some may know from various events around the town. I've seen him in a number of events in East Riding Theatre. Actually, we go. Our first contact goes way back when we were actually restoring the theatre, and I used to annoy him with health and safety tips on how not to fall off ladders, which he managed not to do, which is we're all very grateful for. We then move into some performance by Clint Wasteling, who is, I believe, he's one half of the Hut People. You probably know more about this than me, Brian.
No.
Have I got this wrong?
I think you have. I think that's Sam Pert.
Oh, it is. Yes. Sorry, I'm improvising. No problem. Well, we'll go through the spoken word performance with Gordon, and then it is Clint Wasteling. I have to admit, I'm not sure what Clint's performance is. I've not seen him. Do you have anything, Brian?
I'm afraid I don't. Being with the Morris dancers all day long, I don't get to see the performances.
It's it's going to be a surprise to us all, and apologies to Clint for not having done the research in advance. I did try and find some time this week to make sure I'd made some notes on all of the performers, but I'm afraid life gets in the way sometimes. But we're, as I say, we're all volunteers here, and we have full-time jobs as well as trying to run a festival, so sometimes things slip through. But moving into the rest of the day, at lunchtime, there's going to be an open Zoom session, which is, again, this is not going to be through this channel. This will be through a Zoom channel, and it will be broadcast to Facebook, but it won't be through this kind of Stage 10 software that we're using at the moment. And then we start actually at 2 o'clock or there or thereabouts. you'll be getting a different set of presenters. So there'll be Phil and Tim Pickford from the Monks Walk, who you may have seen on previous video. And they'll be taking you through a number of performers, which will be that will start with Sam Pert, and followed by the Magpies at about 2:30. We're then going to have a sequence of live performances. This is where it gets interesting, because I'm going to be video editor for this, and trying to make sure everything happens seamlessly. So please be kind. So we'll go through a number of live performances. Starting at 3:00, we've got Rachel Croft, who I've seen in several of the festivals, actually, starting when she was very young, in fact, at some of the events at the racecourse, and she's got a growing reputation. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Then we move into the Smugglers at 3:30. Amanda Lowe at 4:00. Again, Amanda is one of the regulars, I think it's fair to say. You can see on the scene in Beverley. She's one of those annoying people who can pick up almost any inanimate object and make a musical sound out of it. She makes me very jealous. But she will be doing a performance. I'm not quite sure what she's playing actually today, but looking forward to that. Then we have Martin Pearson at 4:30. And then we have Under the Hill, and then another performance by Laura Dowse. She did a section, sing-along section this morning for children, but she'll be performing some of her own material at 5:30. Then we have Jeff Green at 6. Katie Spencer at 6:30. Katie, again, is one of the regular artists that you can see around Beverley and its surroundings. She's done an awful lot for not only festival performances and our own scheduled performances, but having been involved with the Town Council in Beverley for a number of years, she's been very supportive of events that we've held, and done a lot of stuff for us for free, and that's very gratefully received. She's really helped us on some events. Then we move to Dan Webster at 7:00. Then Jack Parker. These are all half-hour slots. Heather and James Thomas at 8:00, and then we've got the man and wife team of Jessica Lawson, Phil Simpson, who are. Yeah, so some people may have heard of them. We give Phil a break from doing some presenting and then stuff an accordion in his hands, and he then does a performance for a little while. Many people, I'm sure, will have seen those two performing in the Monks Walk on a regular basis on a Wednesday. We then move into. Excuse me while I try and get my screen to work. We then move into Roy and Emily, who have been very active actually recently in some of the live broadcasts, certainly the Tuesday night broadcasts that people have seen perhaps on Facebook. We'll post some of the ongoing activities in the Fringe site to promote some of these events that happen on a weekly or monthly basis throughout the year. So people can get more familiar with the kind of artists that perform in these. Then 21:30 we have Dogfinger Steve, another festival stalwart, seen around in many of the events that we have in the local area. And then something of a festival tradition. Normally, actually, Edwina Hayes plays the closing set, or has done on some of these. So she's not quite. She's the last live set. And I've got very fond memories of having volunteered for a week setting up a festival, sitting and finally having a pint of beer and watching Edwina perform, especially in the Moonbeams tent when it still was around. There's something about a combination of that kind of live music, particularly her style, bales of hay, relaxation, and a decent pint of Wold Gold. Goes down very well. At that point, I might actually crack a beer. I might need a beer by that point, to be honest with you. And then we close out with the Beckwater Bushwhackers, another piece of video, and then we'll close out with some comments and acknowledgements for all of the people that have helped make this festival happen. There's a huge amount of work that's happened to make this a success, and hopefully it is so far. We haven't really broken anything yet. We'll keep trying for your own entertainment. But do you have anything to add, Brian?
Only that I'm very impressed with the publicans. Their contribution has been superb.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about calling Derek Walby a young man, but Derek has been a stalwart of open mic sessions throughout the area for many years. Absolutely brilliant. Phil and Jess took over at one point, and also Katie Spencer, who actually got an award for her open mic at the Monk's Walk, the same year that we got ours for the Fringe.
Excellent. Yeah, these things do tend to build on each other, and I think there's a sense of momentum sometimes where people are given a platform, and for those of us who aspire to play but aren't very good, we have to make our contributions in other ways, and that tends to be kind of organising events like this. And I hope people found this an interesting perspective, actually having an opportunity to speak to, hear the publicans and of the venues that are often used in this, and why these events are important to them. It's not just cold kind of business principles. There is part of being the fabric of a social calendar in Beverley, which is really important, and it's important to the people of Beverley as well as the people who are selling beer and doing business as well. Okay, so I believe that we are close to being ready for our next video. It's going to be Ian Allett, who is the publican at the Checkers Micropub, and I will hand over now to our video.
How do they get so much talent in such a small space? Unbelievable.
And it is a small space as well. You have to participate if you're there, right? Because there's no chance of sitting in the corner and ignoring it.
Ian worries me as well. He wanted a rapper side in there. For those people who don't know, they're the ones with the bendy swords that wrap around each other. And how we can do that in there, I don't know.
Well, we're back to health and safety then, I think, aren't we? So that was just a little example of some of the activities that have happened in the very confined spaces of Chequers Micropub. It's well worth a visit if you're in the area. There's some fabulous beers, and it's a great group of guys that go down there. Obviously, we're going to have to wait until lockdown is lifted, but with a fair wind, we should be seeing that in the few next weeks and months. So I'm sure they'll be glad to see you down there, as they would in the Sun Inn and the Monks and the Tiger as well, I'm sure. So we were hoping to have a live interview with Ian, but he's got some tech issues. So you're stuck with us, I'm afraid, for the time being. We'll just go through some of the basic kind of bits of information. For the people who are watching us all day, sorry if this is a bit repetitive, but we are really trying to encourage some, I guess you might call it audience participation, in terms of just acknowledging the fact that the people who organise the festival are volunteers. We do this because we want to see this event continue, continue the tradition of this event in Beverley, and we're happy to do so. But the people who perform at the moment, a lot of these individuals are not able to generate income, so we're aspiring to be able to make a contribution. So there is at the bottom of the screen, at some point I'll work out where my hand is on here, there we go. At the bottom of the screen you've got some information about how you can make a contribution. Doesn't matter how small. It's if you find that the performance has entertained you, or the event overall has been a good one, that would be great if you could acknowledge that. The tips will get divvied up between the performers after the event. Thank you for your participation. Whilst we can't be live, an audience is an intrinsic part of what we're doing here. People actually enjoying this. Hopefully, people have taken their laptops or iPads out into the garden, so they're enjoying a beer and a bit of sun. Maybe it's a bit early for beers, but
never too early.
Cases, I'm sure. So I'm going to have to wait for mine, I'm afraid. Please, make a contribution if you feel minded. I've just been asked to make a few comments about people who have commented on the website. I'm assuming these are people who have got in early and are aspiring to get themselves some nice merchandise, so a t-shirt and a Beverley Fringe badge. So some of the names that have popped up so far: Phil Robinson, Tony Sturdy, Jude Douglas, is that? It's difficult to read on the screen. Again, if we have the capacity to be able to deliver these locally to you, if you want to put your comment on the Facebook page, we will provide you with a T-shirt as close to the size that you request as possible. There's limited numbers of these, but for the time being, we're saying for the first 20 people, if you make a comment on there, you get a nice T-shirt and a Beverley Fringe Uncut badge that's been hand embossed through a very salubrious process that I was lucky enough to witness during the week. Okay, so at this stage, I think we're just going to move to our next presentation, which is a bit of a spoken word performance. It's our first performance proper, I think, other than the folk fest, the Morris dancers. Gordon Meredith has been around and he's done a number of different things with East Riding Theatre and various activities in terms of, he actually spent a day dressed as the Mad Hatter at the Great Get Together a couple of years ago, which was highly entertaining, and had an entourage of young children following around town for the rest of the day. I think we will move straight into Gordon's performance, and we will see you in a short period of time.
How does it feel to treat me like you do? When you've laid your hands upon me and told me who you are, I thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel? Those who came before me lived through their vocations, from the past until completion. They'll turn away no more. And I still find it so hard to say what I need to say. I'm quite sure you'll tell me just how I should feel today. I see a ship in the harbour. I can and shall obey. But if it wasn't for your misfortune, I'd be a heavenly person today. And I thought I was mistaken. And I thought I heard you speak. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how should I feel? Now I stand here waiting. I thought I told you to leave me while I walked down to the beach. Tell me, how does it feel when your heart grows cold? I won't just survive. Oh, you will see me thrive. Can't write my story. I'm beyond the archetype. I won't just conform, no matter how you shape my core. 'Cause my roots, they run deep. Oh, ye of so little faith. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Victory is in my veins. I know it. I know it. And I will not negotiate. I'll fight it. I'll fight it. I will transform. When the fire's at my feet again, and the vultures all start circling, they're whispering, you're out of time. but still I rise. This is no mistake, no accident. When you think the final nail is in, think again. Don't be surprised. I will still rise. I must stay conscious through the madness and chaos. So I call on my angels. They say, "Oh, ye of so little faith, don't doubt it, don't doubt it. Victory is in your veins. You know it, and you will not negotiate. Just fight it, and be transformed. Because when the fire's at my feet again, and the vultures all start circling, they're whispering, you're out of time. But still I rise. This is no mistake, no accident. When you think the final nail is in, think again. Don't be surprised, I will still rise. Don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. Oh, you know it. You know it. Still rise. Just fight it. Don't be surprised. I will still rise.
Well, that was an interesting take on some modern anthems.
Definitely.
I'd heard of this process, but I hadn't actually seen the performance. So that was great. That was really interesting. Okay, so thank you, Gordon, for that.
I believe Ian's still having some problems with his technology. I don't know if he's still going to be coming on. Oh, I think he is.
Okay. Yeah, we'll give this a go. We've had these live events never go smoothly, right? So we'll give it a go with Ian and see if we can get through. So it'd be great to hear his comments on the festival, on how he's felt about it. I think if you can give us the nod, Director, we'll move to that interview.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
How are you both doing?
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, thank you.
Fantastic. That looks like a shiny new pair of headsets.
It certainly is. Yeah, I'll break them in.
Great. We'd really like your take on the Fringe, how you feel about it, how you see it going.
Well, I think I've got to go back all the way to 82. I was a regular in Nelly's at the time when the original folk festival was being talked about, ready for launching in 83, and everyone was very excited. It was going to be something fresh and great for the town. We're obviously very well known already because of the White Horse, and sure enough, it was a great success. Checkers, my bar, opened in 2013, which was the last year that the folk festival was actually based in Beverley. It was only 2 weeks after we opened, and it was absolutely brilliant. We got lots and lots of visitors. We got a lot of both the dancers coming in, like the Sallyport. We got plenty of individual instrument players, harps, all sorts of things, and really enjoyed it. The problem then is that obviously it went out of town. It went up to the race course, and unfortunately it took something away from the town. And it was only last year, when I first really got involved with the Fringe, that it took us back to where we were in the early days of the folk festival, and the town was buzzing. I can honestly say we had the busiest day we've ever had, bar none, because we weren't just busy through the day, we were busy through the evening as well, where normally we get one or the other. And everybody enjoyed it. The atmosphere in town was fantastic. So
it's fantastic, isn't it, to see? And there's a synergy to this. So there's not just performances in some of the venues around town, which we try and distribute so that there's a kind of a broad base to the event, and people kind of percolate around. So to go and see the kind of things that is their particular musical preference, and try and have a wide variety of different things going on. But it has a knock-on effect as well, doesn't it? These events tend to get people together. They decide that they're going to create a group or start having a jam session, and a lot of the bars around town have regular kind of music evenings. There's the interestingly tuned guitar in your bar that I've had a go at, probably having had too many beers, but. The number of times that there is kind of spontaneous music, and I think these are the kind of echoes and continuation of these kind of events. You kind of precipitate or create this kind of interest and passion in people, and it has a continuation, and it has consequences throughout the rest of the year. I think it's not just a weekend of festivals. It's something that I know members of the Fringe Committee have an aspiration to not only continue the tradition of having the last weekend in June as a weekend of performance, but to also kind of spread this throughout the year in terms of different activities, and to try and get a bit of a foothold and establish a musical credibility in Beverley moving forwards, and that of course can only be good things for business as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrific. I mean, in the early days, we had quite a lot of different venues, like the Playhouse has gone, Mr. Smith took away the right for music in Nelly's, and that's sadly missing. But we've got new venues like the Masonic Hall, like the theatre, and we're very much the new guys on the block. The other three pubs have been doing it on and off right from the very first year. We're obviously a very, very small venue, so we're pretty limited. We do have people playing up to a dozen down at the bottom end on an ad hoc basis. We did have a few sets specifically lined up for us last year, and they were very, very successful and very enjoyable. But because we had the marquee set up, the gazebo, it meant that anyone that happened to come along had a stage to just jump on, enjoy themselves, and entertain the host of not just people that were in checkers, but people passing through the yard. It just had a terrific atmosphere about it. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that area really suits itself, doesn't it, for a small stage and a gazebo. And I really love the fact that when these events are hosted in Beverley, you've got this kind of circulation of people around. People will come in, they'll go to a venue, they'll have a bite to eat somewhere, they'll go shopping, they'll percolate around the town, and they'll find their way to all of the main venues, none of which are more than 5 minutes apart in terms of a walk. And it transforms the whole town. And of course, when you've got the Morris dancers performing in various public spaces across the weekend, it just stitches everything together. I think they're really complementary, and the number of people that we've seen commenting over the years, actually, just a couple of years that we've been doing Beverley Fringe here, having moved it back from the racecourse. We've got people commenting from America and Canada, tourists who've heard about this and they've come down and they thought they'd come down and see what Beverley was like for a weekend, and just happened to be a music festival, and they're raving about how these kind of activities happen. You just don't get it in some of the big American cities because they're too spread out. They're designed for driving, and you've got this beautiful environment in Beverley for people to wander around, and everyone benefits from this. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. Sorry, Brian, I cut you off there.
Yes, we had some dancing on the Sunday, and we actually had cafe owners coming out and thanking us for drawing people in. It does bring benefit to the town. But I was also saying earlier, Ian, I couldn't believe you wanted a rapper side in your pub. The size of it.
Didn't have any choice. They came in, ordered the beer, and said, "Is it all right for us to dance?" And I just shrugged my shoulders and said yes, and then looked at my lighting and thought, "Is it going to be here in 5 minutes?" because they did their full set at the bottom of Chequers. And in those days, we had a settle down the right-hand side. How they did it, I did give Phil a clip of it. So whether he's managed to incorporate it into the video that's going to be following, I'm not sure, but I think he might have done. But no, it was very, very entertaining, and it just shows how skilled they are in what they do. Because they were flipping guys, and how they didn't smash into things, I've no idea.
I did try and book you one for this year from some guys from Perth called Mom's Meg. They're even bigger.
Are they?
Yeah, and they were very interested, but obviously not to be. But I'll keep on at them for future years.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. I think the full mix of the full folk. I mean, we're just at Clinton with his poetry. That adds another dimension to it, and poetry is becoming much more accessible because of things like the Beverley Fringe.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that we can look into. And the situation at the moment is that adversity has forced us into this route of taking a kind of a virtual approach. But it remains to be seen once we've kind of done a post-mortem of how this has been received by the audience and how performers feel it's gone. But I think this is something that is a great platform to build on into the future. We'll never, where we have the availability and possibility to do live performances and actually have people, bums on seats. This is an extra aspect of the whole performance, and we can diversify with as much content as people are prepared to provide us with. Really,
yeah. It's
great to have that variety.
It's pretty obvious that we're all in our homes at the moment, and it's because of the shutdown. Would have been elsewhere. I'd have certainly been in Chequers, and I wouldn't have a glass of water next to me. But it's a building site. It's just brought it's given us opportunities that we wouldn't normally have. I mean, I've been wanting to renovate the place, reupholster, do everything for a long time, but how do you fit it in? So consequently, I've never been busier. But it would have been impossible to do this from Chequers today. It's a bit of a mess, but we're just hoping that we'll all get back trading in some form or other in the very near future.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think everybody's the novelty is beginning to wear off a little bit now, and everyone accepts that there is a responsibility to try and make sure that we're not only protecting ourselves but protecting everybody else. That's the primary concern. But gradually things will resolve, and we'll get back to normal. It might take a few kind of phases to get there, but I'm interested to hear that you've taken the opportunity to refurbish Chequers, because part of the joy was the slightly unique furniture that was there, that each piece of which had its own personality.
Absolutely. I'd love to have done a full renovation on those a couple of years ago. One in particular, you could very easily touch your backside on the floor, I think, at one stage. But we've literally, in fact, my garage is full of furniture that has been stripped back, new upholstery, different colour scheme. But we don't know what to take down to Chequers yet, because we don't know what the rules are going to be. And I think to start with, it's going to be outside areas only.
I've never seen the furniture in Chequers.
Haven't you?
Every time I've been in, it's been so jam packed you can't even see the floor.
Right, you obviously don't come in often enough, because we do have some quiet times.
All right.
Let's get in early on a Saturday.
Yes. Rob's been in when it's he's actually held court in there several times. So when it's in our quieter moments, there's quite often just one conversation going on.
I feel it's a civic duty. Something not right about an empty bar.
No.
Absolutely. Well, and again, that's an advantage of being a small place, is that we only need 3 or 4 people in, and we've got an atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we can build. I mean, particularly with we've had to skip the physical venues this year with Fringe, and it's great to have an opportunity to speak to you and your get your perspective on these kind of things.
Yeah.
I think we can look forward to a future of gazebos and social distancing, but we will find a way. We're an imaginative bunch, and I think there's a future in this. We just have to adapt. We're good at that.
Absolutely.
I must admit, I couldn't have imagined this happening 3 weeks ago.
No, I just can't believe how well you guys have done to piece it all together. I know artists are just looking for anywhere to perform and anywhere to entertain, because as we're missing the music, we're missing them. They're missing the opportunity to perform and show their talents off. And this is, it isn't an exact replacement, but it's a big step towards it.
Yeah,
that's what I love about Beverley. There's so many welcoming pubs for musicians. Of any stage.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, I think it keeps people coming back, particularly musicians. They just love it. It's one of the very few towns that will allow you to just walk into a pub and ask, "Is it okay if I play?" I've only got one rule in my pub, and that's you can't play any Oasis unless you can prove you're from Manchester.
I like it. How do you see us going forward? We always want to keep it in the town.
Yeah.
Although having bigger names isn't a bad idea.
No. Well, I can see the pros and cons to both, but I certainly think the festival lost something when it went out of town, and I think the town lost something when it went out of town. I think a smaller festival along the lines of the way we're going with the Fringe is my preferred idea, and I'm not saying that from a personal point of view because I've got a business in town. I just think the whole town benefits if it's in the town. Where when it was out on the racecourse, everyone it wasn't made difficult for people to come into town, but people had to make the effort to come in, and they tried very hard to keep everyone out on the racecourse from every point of view. And I mean, seeing people perform out in the streets and moving around the town, I just think it adds something really, really special.
Yeah, and there's a spontaneity to it. Whilst there's always the kind of scheduled events, all you need is some musicians, some musical instruments, and a couple of pints, and things happen, right? It's a much more natural, kind of spontaneous way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And we should play to our advantages. I think it's great, and if any of the audience listening to this are fans of the Fringe and this type of music or any kind of live music or performance, and have suggestions on artists that they would like to see, different types of events or formats of events, we're all ears. We're quite open-minded in terms of how we want to progress with this, but we do intend to progress with it, and we've got an established kind of foundation now, and what we want to do is grow slowly and organically, and not kind of overreach ourselves, but to build a base to be developed into the future, the people of Beverley and the people who are the participants in this kind of activity can help build that. So, stick your comments in Facebook, or contact us by messenger, or any number of means of contacting us, all of which will be linked into the Facebook page. So it would be great to hear from you, and any kind of comments or commentary on how we're doing today is also welcome as well. It helps us improve the experience moving forwards. So I think we're actually at a stage now where we can move to one of our first live performances, which will be Clint Wasting and I think he's got himself queued up. He's going to be performing from the Monk's Walk, I understand. So fingers crossed that we've got all of the Wi-Fi gremlins out of the way, and things will be working smoothly. Thanks again, Ian, for your...
Oh, thanks for giving me the opportunity, and I hope everyone really enjoys the rest of the day.
Okay, so we're giving Clint an extra bit of a challenge, because we'd actually asked him only to perform for 20 minutes, but we're pushing him for 30 now. So there might be some improvisation here, or you'll be unfortunately you'll be back with us babbling away. But at this point, I'll hand over to Clint.
Hi there. I hope you can see me and hear me okay. I'm live in the Monk's Walk garden, which is a fantastic place to be on a lovely sunny day like today. So I'm going to do some light-hearted poems, and certainly some poems with a local theme, all of which, or most of which, will be from this collection, Layers. I'm going to start off with a poem which really talks about the 10% of the population of which I'm a member. It's a poem called The Lefty Revolution. There are words for people like us, the 1 in 10 who confound. In any other minority, calls for equality would resound around Parliament. But in a right-handed world, left is left out. There are words for people like us: sinistral, southpaw, gauche, cuddywifter, maladroit, cack-handed, and even Molly Duker. It's a right-handed world, of that there's no doubt, but there are famous left-handers too. Obama, Ford and Rockefeller, Beaton, Wells and Helen Keller, Bach and Hendricks, Maurice Ravel, Garbo, Grant and William Tell. And those are just a few that rhyme. I'd list some others given time. Don't give me scissors, I'm left-handed, and can openers leave me stranded without food. So recognise our minor issues, please. Doors and handles, forks and keys. Give some consideration and we'd be more at ease. I never use an ink pen because I smudge the words I've written. I use clippers on my toenails, but fingernails are best bitten. So don't be leftophobic. We're just another minority. Join the lefty revolution. Let's exert our authority. Let's right reversed, put knobs the other side, dispense loo roll from the left, and with great pride reclaim the centre. And to be candid, we'll only stop when all is fair and even-handed. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to do one of my lockdown poems now. This was the first one that I wrote. And obviously in the early days of lockdown, we were very lucky in Beverley to have the Westwood as somewhere we could go and walk and discover. Unfortunately, all that fantastic weather in April. Westwood pasture. When gorse is in flower, kissing is in season. But there is good reason for keeping apart on our one self-isolating walk across Westwood pasture, talking, avoiding any mention of COVID-19, pausing to take in sunlight illuminating the scene, sculptural shadows of trees in bud, sun's warm embrace, drying winter's mud, banks of celandines, clusters of primrose, the solitary dandelion everyone knows. Coltsfoot, long known to ease a cough, flowers beneath the hawthorn bough. Spring will pass, and summer beckons new. Hope continues, as does my love for you. So, go back to my failed career. At one point I did think I might be an actor. I pretty soon realised that I wasn't cut out for it. I couldn't remember the lines for a start, which is always a minus. And I always wanted to play the bad guy as well. So this is the poem about it. Bad guys always wear black. I always wanted to be a bad guy in the movies. Angel eyes under a black fedora, to possess Dracula's deathly aura, or play the many faces of Dr. Mabuse, act as Louis Mazzini before the noose. Possess Frank's piercing blue eyes, or play Norman Bates as nice mother's guy. I always wanted to be the bad guy in the movies. There's just one problem. Dandruff. White flakes falling on a black collar stand between me and earning $1. The director fired me. That was tough. All on account of the dead skin I slough. I never wanted to be the nice guy in the movies, but they always wear white, so I'm typecast as vicars, angels, goodly ghosts, Englishmen abroad. It's not quite the acting kudos, but it pays well, thank the Lord. So, yeah, I don't know how many of those films you could have named in there. Obviously, Louis Mazzini is Kind Hearts and Coronets. Frank, yes, from... Do you know, which spaghetti western was Frank from? I can see Henry Fonda now doing the part. On to East Park now. So I'm sure we've been to East Park. I know we've taken our kids there, we've taken our grandkids there, and it was finding a photograph of my grandfather standing at this particular location in 1929, which set this poem off. It's called The Splash Boat. Not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 generations, awestruck by the gravity of this mechanism. To queue and climb the steps, we choose our seat and wait with trepidation between heartbeats. Movement slowly accelerates, the roar of wood on rail accumulates, screaming punctuates descent, until the nose plunges in the plume of water, arcs and thrills, drop by drop, onto us, our neighbours, mums and dads, clandestine lovers. Finally, the vessel judders, the splash boat hauled to home by Jute. We disembark and watch the next crew ride the water chute. So, some point in the next minute, the bells of Beverley Minster are going to chime out. That depends if Beverley Minster and yeah, the computer time, of course, are one and the same. So I'm going to continue for now with a poem, Riding the Riding. Lockdown provides more time to cycle. You feel part of the countryside, embraced by it, higher on a saddle, able to peer over hedgerows at land we're forbidden to access. Late spring, and the colours are varied, air scented with may and rapeseed, verges alive with butterflies, small white, orange tip, peacock, wall brown. Cycling the worlds from High Hunsley to South Dalton, a flask of coffee, bananas, biscuits, and for breaks on benches watching holly blue, tortoiseshell, or brimstone yellows. There were the cyclists indulged by the sun. On roads so quiet, birdsong delights, and the soil smells damp from dew. A landscape brim full under a sky of blue. And as I was saying earlier, that's one of the things that's really, been a positive about lockdown. The weather has been absolutely fantastic during most of April and, of course, May, allowing us to sort of get out and walk and cycle as part of our exercise regime. I want to talk about a group that I belong to in Beverley called Subtle Flame. The whole group actually had performed at the folk festival in the past, and certainly I performed at the folk festival. Ah, there they go, the bells. So what I was going to say is that the Subtle Flame meets the Tiger once a month in normal circumstances, and each month there's a theme to the first set of poems. This particular month it was Washer, and I scratched my head, I searched, I couldn't think of anything until I put my English, the studies of the Scottish play, as we had to call it, and Washer together. So, against the chime of the midday bells, Washer. If Lady Macbeth had the advantage of an automatic washing machine, how different the Scottish play would have been. There would have been no need to consult witches on the brew required to remove stubborn bloodstains and make a kirtle new. The Chamberlains could have been framed for Duncan's murder, hands washed, and clothes round the washer without a murmur. No nightmares on the battlements, or falling out with Banquo, just watch the drum of fabric swashing to and fro. Macbeth could load the drum, or his good lady, and then relax with a glass of wine and not look quite so shady. Perhaps a rub with soap or biological detergent would stop Macduff returning from exile, resurgent. It is a shame that Glamis, or Cawdor there might be, didn't have a washer from Amazon or Curry's. So, the lady wrings her hand at some imagined blood clot, sleepwalking to the bitter end with out, damn spot. So, yeah, if you're interested in poetry at all, that's a very friendly and welcoming group. Obviously, like most things at the minute, we're on Zoom rather than live in the Tiger, but hopefully that will change fairly soon. Fingers crossed. Right, so back on to the East Riding, and along with a lot of people, I'm a member of Yorkshire Wildlife, and we did a huge survey on Spurn Head a couple of years ago. I think we collected something like 200 bags of rubbish. It's a little like you'll see pictures of the debris on the Westwood after all the picnics of the weekend. Anyway, it set me to write this poem about the critical figure of Belshazzar. There may be some contemporary figures that this is appropriate for as well. It's called Belshazzar's Feast. The writing is on the wall, but not enough people read the words or heed the message. The feast continues unabated. Exotic foods flown from around the world, Antipodean wines, rare flesh on which to dine, and standing decked in polyester from crude oil and cotton from the toil of hungry children, Belshazzar stands, imagining he's immune. A man with enough money to feed the poor. The world has not enough, yet he wants more. More heat, more light, more to delight the senses. He senses the writings on the wall, knows he cannot have it all and continue. He'd like to save the world, but cannot save himself. Without air, he cannot breathe. Without water, what good is wealth? So he returns to the feast. The writing still on the wall, ignored by many, and by others never read at all. So I hope we aren't going to be in that position, and that we've seen that we can very quickly clean up pollution. Let's hope we manage to get a solution to that. In this next poem from the collection Layers, I'm going to talk about something that a lot of my friends have had problems with, and that's, when parents become less mobile and they decide to downsize from the family home to a retirement flat or sheltered accommodation, and it's what to do with all that stuff. So this is a story about property sorting. When I walk by the white horrific, I remember trinkets found when outside a retirement flat. She snatched the box from me. You can't throw that. This will give you some idea of our task. It contained place card holders, a receipt for grandparents' honeymoon dated 1935, confetti, a tarnished lapel pin. Throwing away the past can be cleansing, it can be painful, and it's always a little loss. And if we are preservers of the past, then I'm growing toward Mother's view. Let others decide. Let the future obliterate. Let us read again photos seen, all the love there was, evidenced in all the love there's been, spent in 1,000,000 kisses, 100,000 wishes, preserving all that's gone before. Names from this box of trinkets. Now, when I walk by the White Horse and Griffin on Whitby's Old Church Street, I remember that hotel bill and pause. My grandparents walked through these doors, took their honeymoon here, where past and present meet. So, one of the disadvantages of lockdown is not being able to go in Beverley Minster, not being able to go in St Mary's, and that means that for a very long time I've not seen this particular character who is the Pilgrim Hare in St Mary's. So this poem, it's the Pilgrim Hare. No more to roam the fields, or box on the fertile loam, or sniff and savour the air, or watch the moon without a care, or run along a furrow with ears poised and primed for the ever-present danger of a dog or humankind. I am the Pilgrim Hare, which many seek but few can find. My satchel's full to brimming with messages to mankind. My staff is stout and strong as I start my pilgrimage round churches, shrines and holy wells. This is my heritage. Created by an unknown hand from pure limestone, I am St Mary's Pilgrim Hare, feeling all alone. 500 years or more I've waited by this arch to see another winter, neither mad nor March. And silent as my stone, I wait for liberation, when I might join the other hares and sniff the air and watch the moon, or chase a doe in mating as the summer hay grows strong. Till then, I wait. It cannot come too soon. So that's been very nice about getting out into the East Riding countryside. We've seen several hares as we've walked around the place, and I think they're as startled as we are, vanishing into the hedgerows, etc. So I'm going to move on to a favourite subject of mine, collecting ammonites. So when my son was younger, we used to regularly take to the East Yorkshire coast and North Yorkshire coast to try and find fossils. Inevitably, you could find little bits of them, but not always the whole thing. But here we're at Speeton, collecting ammonite. Fossils with my son on Speeton Beach, moving carefully from clay to shale to sand, seeking ammonite within reach of the searching fingers of an outstretched hand. Beneath precarious pinnacles of clay, first fragments, then the whole delightful swirl of shell emerged once more into day. And washed in waves, its shape unfurls. My son's bright eyes and grimy fingernails show delight in what he's found. Chalk cliffs loom and steel remaining day, and rising tide takes all which might be drowned. Long dead creature turned to stone. How many years have you endured alone? And I'll do two more poems before finishing. And this one is really, it's about my dad. And it's those moments shared. And this one will show my age as well. Right. Lazy shaving. A man should meet his maker clean-shaven. Dad's aphorism, born from the sentiments of his time, hid the bitter irony. One shave begets two, and drags you in. The bathroom windowsill possessed ritual items: a safety razor, badger hairbrush, soap bowl. Add hot water to the sink, wipe steam from the mirror, prepare. Sometimes I'd watch as his blade skimmed over his tightly stretched skin, revealing a smooth new surface, as contours were cleared of stubble. I picked up where Dad left. I wanted sideburns like my heroes Jason King, Richard Roundtree, and a host of pop stars dressed in flares. Lazy shaving, my dad said in judgment. But this was 1975, and the world beckoned. He taught me how to use a styptic pen, which aftershave to wear in moments shared. When I look in the mirror now, I see aspects of Dad, his dimpled chin, wrinkles reflecting my aging, an outline fading through deepening steam. There's quite a lot of those poems came from the collection Layers, which in normal times you'd be able to get in the treasure house in the Tourist Information Centre. But I'm afraid at the minute the only place you can get hold of a copy of Layers is by going to Maytree Press, the publishers of the pamphlet. So, what else? The final poem I want to do for you is fairly new. I'm not terribly keen on celebrity culture. I think, you know, it's a good job there's been things like Netflix and Amazon Prime. I can't say I've been terribly enthused by this on the main TV channels. And this poem is about that. It's called Flash in the Pan. Defined as sudden and brief success. Too often it should never have started. Don't leave it to heat. Okay, and now. Let's find a way somehow. So, who might judge that compilation of celebrities who clutter our TV stations? Kim Kardashian, Katie Hopkins, Holly Willoughby, Rylan, Cy, Jonathan Ross or Piers Morgan. Oh, please, just crawl away and cry. Oh, do not want your chat show blunder. Asking comments make me shudder. I do not want your thoughts at all. If I wanted vitriol, I'd read St. Paul. Ant and Dec, they're in the frame for celebrities we ought to blame for dumb and dumber TV stars who cross their T's, land on their R's. Chloe and Amber, Katie's too. I'd like to do away with you. Flash in the pan, or flushed away. You've had your time, lost your way. Let's ban the bullshit and bombastic, deflate conceit, arrest sarcastic. For once, let's just stop all celebrities. Exile them to the outer Hebrides. Remember, if we don't watch or listen, it's just hot air that you'll be missing. Yeah, apologies for that really bad rhyme there. And I'm going to leave you then with a final poem. This one celebrates Shakespeare. In fact, it was written for 2016 for the however many 100 years anniversary of his death. And it features that eternal idea of cross-dressing that happens in Shakespeare's plays. And any number of his plays uses it as a plot device, with good reason, of course. That reason being that it was illegal for a woman to be on an Elizabethan stage. So here it is, cross-dressing. I've never fancied cross-dressing, except once as a hippie in a play. I was 12 and the photo is blurry, which is a blessing in many a way. For Shakespeare, cross-dressing was essential because a woman was played by a man. So a youth acted the part for comic potential, disguised again as the play began. Twelfth Night is just an example, and not just stockings get into a tangle. The actor plays Viola disguised as Cesario, who falls in love with Orsino, but that Lothario reckons without Olivia, who loves Cesario herself. Viola's twin Sebastian settles the scenario, and all's well that ends well. The Winter's Tale exits left, pursued by a bear. Midsummer Night's Dream uses magic to ensnare. Love's labour's lost, fasting lords feast on ladies' allure. In Measure for Measure, we find Isabella is wholly pure. I could be Troilus to your Cressida, but kissing is just much ado about nothing. Two gentlemen of Verona, more cross-dressing. Julia becomes Sebastian, no messing. So, next time you put on your stockings or hose, remember the theatrical past. Keep them guessing as to what in your garden grows, and act out your part till the last. Well, I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of those poems, and if it's made you keen to go out there and write some poems, or you want to perform them, then Subtle Flame hopefully will be back in September at the Tiger. Fingers crossed. Okay, and if you want to hear more of my poetry, you can catch some of it on YouTube. If you just type in my name, I'm sure they'll come up. They're the ones that have had about 1 view in 10 years. Never mind. And also the collection is available from Maytree Press. Thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the fantastic lineup of the day. Bye.
Oh, gosh,
that was
we're back.
fantastic. Yeah, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that last
So did
minutes,
I.
and thanks, Clint, for extending for us. The Subtle Flame was not extinguished by the collaborative efforts of both Beverley Minster, wood pigeons, blackbirds, and a variety of other sounds that were going on around you. You were unfazed, very professional. Thank you for that. It really struck a chord, actually, some of those lyrics, and I'll certainly be seeking out a copy of, I think it was called Layers, the compilation of Clint's poems. So as soon as the tourist information is open again, I think I'll be wandering down there and seeing if I can get a copy. Actually, his poem about hares, it resonates with me. It's one of my favourite animals, and I love walking around the countryside here and seeing those animals, beautiful, beautiful animals, striding away and generally adorning the countryside. It's a pleasure to see. So thanks again, Clint. I've got a couple of comments coming in here from the Facebook page. Just call out a few names. It's lovely actually to hear people commenting, because it gives us a sense of engagement. I think you might agree, Brian, that it's just two talking heads for us here. So we get to see the performances and then do the commentating and the introductions. But to actually get some feedback from people is really useful, and keep it coming. We've got 50 or 60 comments so far, I think. So that's great. So I'll just do a couple of name checks. Apparently Tony Sturdy has cleared his calendar or his agenda for today, and he's going to be watching the rest of the broadcast, which is great to hear. Obviously we haven't put him off so far, so thanks, Tony. Angela Harley has said that she particularly enjoyed the Morris dancers. I wonder if Angela's participated in this. Yeah, yes, is she one of the two? Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a vested interest. Carol Britton has just said she likes some of the aspects of spoken words as well, and as we've just seen with Clint and Gordon earlier, that was great. Graham Ward has just made a contribution to say that he agrees that it was a good move to bring the festival back into town. I think there's a very strong set of opinions and feeling about this, that it's part of Beverley's heritage, and It brings something very special to the festival when it's it's kind of intimate, but publicly enjoyed, as it were. So it's great to see that happening. Jill Williamson has said she found it very interesting hearing the publicans' views. It's not an aspect that you would ever really get to hear if it was a live festival, and we've tried to kind of bring in some new and interesting content so that people can understand what it takes to set up one of these types of events. And we'll probably build on that moving into the future. Just to give an example of the huge amount of work actually that goes in from certain individuals to make these kind of things happen. So it's great. And just one last name check, Phil Robinson, who's actually, I think he's one of the first few in the comments, so he's probably likely to be getting a t-shirt soon. Hi, Phil. I hope you're going to be swapping that coffee for a beer come the afternoon. So thanks for your comment, and thanks for participating. It's great to know that there are people out there enjoying this. Makes it all worthwhile. Okay, so Brian, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about some of the comments in the poem Flash in the Pan about two people presenting and people not wanting to hear their comments. Good job it was only famous people.
Could have been written for us.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed that. I've never been a great fan of poetry until I started going to Derek Wardby's sessions at the Tiger. And he started bringing poets in as well as just ordinary open mic. And it's really sort of sold me on it now. I quite enjoy it. We did have a comment earlier. Sorry,
go on.
We had a comment earlier that we should be mentioning the buskers stage. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay. I'm not quite sure to what that refers to, but I think maybe we should be encouraging people to think about the next phase of the festival and the broadcast. We are going to be moving to Zoom again now. So what's going to happen is we are actually going to hand over to a Zoom session, which is a kind of an open sing-song, which is going to last for an hour or so, I believe. We won't be back until 2 o'clock. So the open Zoom session will be for, I'm guessing, 90 minutes then from 12:30. The link is in Facebook. It will be viewable through Facebook as well. So you can go to the link, you can click on the link, it will take you to Zoom, you can participate, but that group sing-along will be then in itself broadcast to Facebook. If you don't want to be seen or known that you're participating, or you don't want to be heard, or if you have any sensitivities of that, just be aware that it will be broadcast. However, don't let that put you off. There's going to be plenty of people there of all sorts of different talents. You can participate by just joining and listening in. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to feel as though you're going to be giving a virtuoso performance. That's not what this is about. This is about group participation of all sorts of different levels of skill. So if you go to the Facebook page, you will find that there. And we will not be broadcasting from this stream, from the Stage 10 stream, until 2 o'clock. So if you would like to go and participate in the singing, please do. Find the link in Facebook page, Beverley Fringe. Don't forget, people, please, as well, if you wouldn't mind, considering making a contribution, doesn't matter how small, to paypal.me/Beverley Fringe. This is money that will be treated as tips that will be collated and spread between the performers, and just as a consideration for the time and effort that they've put into being here. I stress again, none of this comes to any of the organisers or goes into the bank accounts of Beverley Fringe. We do all of this voluntarily. The tips go to the people who are performing. Okay, so I think at this stage we can sign off, give you guys a break from our faces and voices. You can go and stretch your lungs and larynxes over in the open singing section. Again, link in FB, goes to Zoom. It's all happening there. And we will pick up with you again at 2 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube.
Does that mean I can have a beer now?
You can certainly open the beer.
Thank you.